Hello. Hello, hello. Alright, so still getting stuff rearranged. Got a little bit of time to pencil in just a touch more from where we were yesterday. For anyone who's new, hello. Mostly centered. Hey! Figuring out this camera thing only took 3 days. So, one big difference. I'm flat on my desk. Yay! I figured it out. Apparently I had screwed up a camera setting, which is not too much of a surprise because, well, all this stuff is still new to me. I believe I got rid of most of the shadows I was seeing. I think that's a lot clearer than it was yesterday. But to me I'm kind of seeing like these horizontal lines. I think that might be the LEDs. Now I have multiple shadows because multiple LEDs. So, we'll see how that goes. This is a temporary setup with the additional lighting. I'm getting a new thing to help me organize and set up my desk, which includes lighting, and that should be here on Monday. I don't think it'll be here early enough for me to have set up for Monday's stream, so probably will be put into place on Tuesday. I hope those lines... At least I'm seeing lines on my screen. I don't know if you guys are seeing lines on my screen. That might be the shadow actually coming over my shoulder. I've moved my curtain too, so I have some more natural light also coming in over the desk, as well as the original lighting that we had. So we'll see how this goes. I have the lighting actually taped in place with some masking tape because it is such a temporary setup. I'm not going to drill holes in my desk since this is only going to be up for, 2 days max. Alright, I think we're good to go. Alright, so let's just give you a tour. Oh, you'll probably see my perspective is a little bit wonky compared to the whole composition. And that's because I'm thinking of the purposes on which this is for. So, actually, this is really angled. I'm sorry, my camera got kind of whacked out of mount yesterday because I was busy futzing with some lights. I tried some LED strings above me, and that was definitely not enough light, so thankfully I was able to go ahead and borrow the new light that you're seeing. And I want to see if I can actually get the whole image in frame, if I have enough desk space. And it's still upside because the camera's mounted on a slight angle. I'm going to try to straighten that for a moment. I do actually prefer the slight angle when I'm up close, especially if I'm drawing or painting. It's just because it works out better for me being left-handed. And as usual, I have to keep flipping the image upside down for me for it to be right side up for you because of how I have the camera mounted. If I can rig something where I don't feel like the camera's going to fall, I will absolutely switch that. That's mainly a problem for when I'm doing pencil work. Thankfully today, not doing pencil work, since I have all of this space, now I can start doing larger washes if the situation warrants it. And I don't know, I might at some point. I think if I had a little bit more of the setting blocked in by pencil, I would probably just do a really large wash and put some random splashes of color in just to, I don't know, add a little bit of randomness to this. And basically the main reason I'm not is because not knowing where people are yet. I don't want to be splashing like, say, some like vibrant purple across somebody's face where I can't rework it and have that face be recognizable. So that's the only reason I haven't done that. But I think that would be a really fun thing to do to help kind of set some of the mood and the tone for this version of Wonderland. And like I said, now that you can see the whole thing, you can see that a little bit of the perspective is wonky on that table. Really, the items, how they're stacked, they should be tipped a little bit further this way. I don't know if that makes sense with me just showing you a hand and kind of waving. So I think they'll be more useful for stickers, because generally if you're using a lot of stickers, a lot of times you'll be using stuff in profile, and if I had things a little bit more tipped up, you'd be seeing more of like the top of the teapot, the top of the teacup stack, and I don't think that's as interesting visually, especially for stickers. So we're skewing our perspective. I already knew I was going to be distorting it a bit because I really liked how this was going with the checkerboard, having some like nearly accurate perspective. My lines are still a little wonky over here, so I gotta tighten them up. And once I introduce the hedge maze, I'm probably going to break that perspective, and that is going to be an intentional thing. I do mean for some of this to be a bit abstract, and for one, that's to help me fit the prompts here, because some of the prompts I wouldn't be able to use as interestingly as I would like if I were doing this very, like, normal. Like, look at this giant keyhole. I want it to be a giant keyhole. I want you to be able to see through to where that hallway is. But can I put a door there? No, because then you won't see the rabbit hole. So, things are a little bit wonky. The keyhole is going to allow you to see through it, so that way you can see the initial hallway that she was in and found that little door. So probably a little swag of curtains over there. The glass table where she found the cake and the key. So those will be getting snuck into that keyhole as I keep developing the drawing itself. So hopefully you'll bear with me. Hopefully this makes sense and doesn't look too wonky to work as a print. My executioner area still looks very much like a dog dish, and that's probably going to go on until I add some steps across the front and start getting in some of that stone texture and some characters back there. We'll have the card guard and the Knave of Hearts over there at some point. So still nailing stuff down, but I also want to have this worked enough that you can see how it's unfolding and you can enjoy the progress. So little bits at a time. I already have the teapot put in. The teapot is actually a later prompt. Let's see, grabbing that. I'm kind of adding the whole birthday aesthetic that I actually might move, so I can go ahead and pop in like a rather massive cake, because I mean, what says birthday like a cake? Alright, so today is stack of teacups. The teapot's not until day 13, so we got some time to be reworking that table. Those teacups, though, those will be staying put because that's what we're working on today. So hopefully that's interesting. Let's go ahead and check out Twitch itself. Just popping on. We'll go ahead and check to see if we have any questions or comments. Okay, so I'm seeing the live stream itself. And on the live stream itself, I'm not seeing any viewers for the moment. That's okay. You can catch the replay and be able to see all of Wonderland unfolding. So, that'll be a lot of fun. Alright, and pulling up the stream manager. Alright. So, I decided to switch over the playlist. I have no idea what's on it, so that was the least of my worries as far as things to adjust, because you guys seeing a blurry page was a priority. Like, you cannot just be staring at a blurry page, and I also need space between my camera and the paper to go ahead and pop in some of those wild washes. So once I have a little more in place, we'll definitely be playing with some paint, getting some color splashing going. Alright, so get a couple more of these little random eraser crumbs. and fuzzies and everything else, because nobody likes to deal with fuzzies when they're trying to paint. They can make some really wacky patterns on your work, so if you do see fuzzies on your piece, yeah, try to get them before you're putting paint down. Alright, I'll slide my little paper scrap over here. That little paper scrap is just really handy to have when I'm cleaning off the end of my eraser. These erasers normally don't smudge, but if you have like a really thick layer of graphite on them, yeah, they could wind up depositing the graphite instead of pulling it away. And nobody likes that, and it just means you wind up cleaning up a bigger mess of graphite than you probably want to. So I'll probably go ahead and angle the camera so we can get into these teacups without me having to slide this off my desk, because like I said, I got a little desk. My little desk will get bigger though, because then I won't have to have the laptop right on the desk. So like I said, Monday, Tuesday, depending on when that delivery arrives, we'll be tearing stuff down and moving it around again. This is too far away from me. Alright, I gotta move my water cup. I'm gonna do the water cup over there. Slide the paint over. Alright, and let's think about what do we want to do. That's probably annoying, so we'll slide the paper over. Cover up that bright spot for my little cutting mat. As usual, I have my... helps if the camera will focus. Here we go. Princeton Velvet Touch. I have a round number 8. I have a couple other brushes that I just toss over here, because these are the most likely ones that I would be using. We also have a number 8 long round. It's got a much finer point on it, but I don't use that often because I really want to preserve that point for when I absolutely want detail and flexibility, so it's more likely to be a brush that I'd use traveling out on the road. Let's see, we also have a round number 1, which again, put my hand over here so hopefully camera focuses. See how much finer that is. I tend to like 6s and 8s. Those tend to work best for me as far as rounds. This is a super cheap one. This is the one I use when I'm just kind of going to be beating it up, like paint swatching, last little bit of color out of the palette, stuff like that, because this poor little thing's seen some stuff. And then I have for some of those crazier washes, the Escada Versatile. It's a synthetic brush. It's a number 10. It's got a big, fluffy, and loose. I don't generally work very loose, but when I do, I want something that's going to hold a lot of water. I tend to like a lot of synthetic brushes for multimedia purposes because the bristles are very snappy. See, look, this is even damp still. You can see how much the bristles are just blap, right in place. I'll give you an example with the Escada. Right, so I just wet it. Hopefully I'm not gonna flick water all over our piece here, but like it's still a little snappy, but when you're painting with it, it does feel a little bit more like it's just very, very soft. I have a couple other brushes that are similar, but that's about as loose as I get until I get into the Hake brushes. I have a few that are used for calligraphy. I don't do Chinese calligraphy, but the brushes are so wonderfully soft, and that can be a lot of fun to work with. And they're also amazingly cheap. If you're looking for really soft brushes and you want a good deal on getting like a set of 5 or 6, I forget if it's a 5 or 6 set, but on Dick Blick's website, I love ordering from Dick Blick because Blick art materials they keep a really low margin. that means that a lot of savings goes on to the artists. So if you're trying to order art supplies, I do recommend them. I'm not sponsored. If you're listening, Blick, sure, let me know. I might see about their affiliate program at some point, but for the moment, I think that's enough of rambling about supplies and materials, other than my usual palette. So we're sticking with the bright and dark palette with my insane barrage of reds, but that'll come in handy, especially once we get to the queen. And let's see, the Queen of Hearts is day 5, so if you're not so interested in a stack of teacups, day 5 will be rather epic, getting her in on this page. Also, day 6 is Alice, and tomorrow is the Mad Hatter. So, tomorrow's Mad Hatter, then Queen of Hearts, and then Alice. So it's going to be a very busy couple days blocking in the main characters of this composition. Alright, I don't need pencil, I need paintbrush. I don't really love reaching all the way across what I'm working on to get to the water, but that is temporary. That's for today and tomorrow. Hopefully it's not too distracting. I'm actually being prepared ahead of time. We'll have some paper towel over here. And I hadn't even thought about what color I want these teacups. Wow, we're already 20 minutes in. I apparently can talk to myself quite a bit. Well, I start the stream early. Let's see, it's actually 18 in. You know, thinking about it a little bit, I think I'm going to stay away from any red on these cups, and just feeling like Mad Hatter's not exactly endorsing the queen. I do actually need to lighten these lines a little bit though, because I do think I'm going to go a bit light with the paint scheme. And just gently removing a bunch of that graphite. I think this soundtrack's actually going a lot better than I expected it. I don't think I'm getting lost in it as much as some of the other ones. They were a little bit loud. And the nice thing about this little piece of watercolor paper, if I need to test the strength of a color, I can pop it down on the page first before we go ahead and get that down. Wow, I got loose stuff. Alright. I did not get this so good. Kind of funny in the sketching process. Spend all this time putting pencil on the page just to erase like half of it if you're going in with watercolor. Ooh, I can't use that brush now. I was gonna grab my Escada to go ahead and brush this off, but we don't want the whole stack of cups to be all wet. I need to think about such things. I don't always, but that's okay. I just think I rinsed that one off, but we'll leave it for now. Alright. So, what color are we making some teacups? Let's go ahead and just... A reminder, feel free to comment anytime you'd like to comment. I love questions as far as the palette, colors I'm using, techniques, anything. Or even just, what's your favorite part of Alice in Wonderland? I would love to know. It is one of my favorite stories. I do like the movies as well. It's whether it's Disney. Well, technically Disney did both, but Burton was involved with the more recent movies. And what do you think of the whole extended universe thing that Tim Burton did? I think we're gonna go pretty simple with these. Even though up here is where the light is, I would assume that these would be mostly backlit, so that means the edges would be a little bit darker, almost silhouetted, but I'm not gonna go very dark on these, just like yesterday. We didn't go very dark with much on the mouse, which, other than the spoon, I went way too dark on the spoon. I didn't save some of my highlights, so the spoon looks a little blobby still, but we'll fix that when we go ahead and do a layer. Might do pencil, might do gouache. I do have some Dr. Martens bleed-proof white somewhere. My camera's going to focus. I have one hand on my paint palette, so I'm not just tapping on my screen to autofocus. That's alright. You know what, we're gonna go with... I'm feeling more blues and greens. We do this, make some cobalt teal. Like, these cups are not all from the same set. I think this one would be a really pretty standout. It is one of my favorite shades of blue. And I'm still using the size 6. Where that, the tip of the brush is a little bit wonky. But it's fine as long as I'm not doing too fine a detail, or if the brush feels like we're working with me. Or even if it's not. I'll tend to just fiddle with the pigment and slightly push it into place when I need to. I think, just to emphasize the madness of this little tea party, we're going to add some tea to that cup later. I do also want to do a subtle shadow. For the shadows today, I think we're just going to go into that neutral tint. Because it's a nice, very soft color. Go ahead and get rid of a little bit of this extra paint. Just dab. Don't want this very wet. Ooh, I forgot to go ahead and get the, I need that darker. But I did forget to go in and, get the handle of the cup. We'll get to that later. Just very soft little shadow. We're gonna lighten that edge. Lighten that edge. We want this to show some depth. I'm also not trying to go too dark because we're gonna add tea in there. We gotta wait for that to dry, so we'll get to the next cups. Just think that's kind of bonkers having a stack of cups with tea in it. Right, and we're going to do, let's see, I'm going to do just a touch of this phthalo, which one is it? Phthalo blue turquoise or it might be phthalo turquoise blue. It's PB16 is the pigment. That way you can make sure it's correct. So they have a phthalo turquoise, and then there's a new one that's a bluer shade. I'm gonna use that for my cup shadow. We're gonna push that back a little bit. And just a touch more to the side. You have to be real gentle, tapping in some more color over this cobalt teal, because it is a granulating pigment. It is going to lift pretty easily. So I'm trying to keep this really, really dry and just nudging the pigment where I want it. And we're just tapping in just a touch. I think my cup is a little bit wonky, but that's okay. Alright, and then we're gonna skip a cup to go ahead and start working on the bottom cup. Let's see. This one's got a little bit more of a sweeping kind of shape. So I'm going to first pop in just a touch of quinacridone gold. I do like to use metallic pigments, but because I'm going to be scanning this, I'm going to leave them off for now. Just very gently going to come in here with a little gold rim. You know, I like the soundtrack that's on a lot more than our last one. Emphasize that coming around just a touch. Alright. And what else do we want on this cup? We do a little bit of a maybe a little pattern. Maybe just some green leaves. I think I hope that's enough light. Yeah, I've only got so many outlets on this power strip, so I can't turn on the other light. This one's a lot more effective than the other one was. Try to adjust the ISO a little bit. I feel like this is still a little dark. Yeah, that's where I want to set it at, and I am on manual. I don't understand why my ISO keeps creeping. Alright, and we're already at the halfway point. Alright, well, if I were keeping this to a 30-minute, I'm going to go a little bit over. We're gonna have some phthalo blue-green shade. A lot of people really are particular about, like, oh no, I mixed all my pigments. I'm like, why? If that's the color you like, you know, I don't understand why there's this pride thing about, like, oh, I never use this color out of a tube, like. But maybe it's just a thing where I'm more like a little kid than I know. Let's see, we'll just do some leaves. This is going to be one of our happy bright spots on here. I don't even know what kind of leaves we're doing. Maybe that is too bright. I don't know. I really like to push like some contrast between bright happy colors and dark moody, so kind of figuring out the balance for that for this project still. The blue is definitely not that dark. That settled down a little bit more than I wanted it to, and I'm getting distracted. Let's see. Cobalt blue turquoise. Cobalt turquoise blue. Whichever you are, PB16. I'm really trying not to rest my hand on the paper. You probably will see me do it, but I really don't recommend it. Take out most of our color. I should have got over here a little darker too while I was at it. That's alright. This is going to be insane dealing with the Mad Hatter tomorrow, considering how slowly I'm going on this. Jeez. I really do want to keep this light. Thinking like, oh yeah, let's add some flowers. I mean, it's got that gold rim. I'm probably going that way. Ahead on one thing, behind on another. That's okay. Sorry, I'm kind of debating, like, do I want that to be a vine? Do I want it to be a floral? That is way too dark at either rate. Okay, we'll have a blob for a blue flower with a little dot in the middle. Go ahead and do something with that later. And throw in some lighter blue over here, just to indicate that pattern continues on. It'll probably cause a little bit of controversy with my whole full strength phthalos. We got some phthalo blue red shade. That's what I'm dotting on for the florals on this. And that's really kind of obliterated being able to see the difference between this phthalo blue green shade and phthalo green blue shade and phthalo blue red shade. They are kind of merging. I don't love that. Alright, and then I feel like the cobalt blue one is like the pretty modern cup, but I also kind of feel like maybe we need like an ugly diner cup. I don't know if you guys have been in a diner and you just see like the terrible like olive green or like retro like brown and orange stripes. Like, I don't know if it's because that stuff was cheap because it's still sitting in a warehouse from the 70s, or if that's what they're picking because they think like it's less likely that people are going to klepto the dishware. I don't know. People do some wacky things. I'm still not happy with the shadow up here. I mean, it is blending in nicely, but it's just not as dark as I wanted it. I might just wait until it dries a little more and pop in the pop in a little bit of neutral tint maybe. This is funny, I was just talking to you guys about like, oh yeah, I don't use it all that often, and here I am, blam blam, like it's on the mouse, it's in this cup. That's alright. You know, it's the point of it being on the palette, is like, use it when you need it. That's what it's there for. Of course there's other ways you could do it. There's a million ways you can do any of what I'm doing. It's like, use the colors that you like, do what makes you happy. Alright, now that this should be pretty dry, I'm coming in with some tea. And for right now, because it is such a small cup, we're just going to do the Quinburn orange. I'm going to leave the shadow out because I don't want it to just get overrun with being a darker color. Like, we'll add that as I need to. And here I am, ignoring the Twitch stream. What are you doing? Alright, everything's still quiet. Literally the house is still quiet, so we're gonna keep on going. Ooh, and then it gets windy outside. You might hear that actually making it through the vent of my my AC. Alright. So in honor of the very 70s style, we're gonna go in with some olive. Like a nice olive-y color. On the bright side, like... I'm keeping this happy, so at the moment this is some rich green gold. I kind of feel like that embodies the aesthetic for that really well. Don't want to do a ton of pattern if it's not going to visually read, and that's something that can be tough to balance when you're working on something so small. You have to let me know what you guys think of this color. This is like one of my favorite colors for like the sunlight coming through leaves. I think it's really pretty for that. I think a lot of people get wrapped up in mixing those colors instead of just being happy with the colors they have. I mean, as long as you could express what you wanted to in the piece, that is the key. Alright, we're going to try to lighten the center just a little bit. So we're drying off the brush a little bit to lift out some pigment. I'm not gonna come back and really putter around with shading. Wow, I can English. So I want to help convey some form, pulling out a lot of this color. I think maybe I have a little too much highlight. The opposite problem with the other teacup. It's alright. Tomorrow's going to be kind of a rush since we're working on the Hatter. Kind of want to go in with a little bit more of a wet wash. I just said I'm not going to futz with this too much, and then I'm like, this edge is so hard though, I don't want it to dry that way, I want it to blend. Just a touch. I don't want it like soaked. We're going in with not just water. If you just drop water in, you're gonna get blooms like crazy. But I mixed a little bit of the rich green gold with some water, so that way it can flow a little bit. And then come back let that mix kind of run a little bit. This should give us a little bit more of a natural looking shadow and highlight, so that it looks more like a curve. Alright, and I'm just about off camera for that. Wow. I'm sorry. I gotta keep looking up and make sure everything's in view. That's one of the things I'm figuring out still, between zooming in so you can see more detail, but then that means it's a lot easier for me to slide it off camera if I'm moving like an inch towards me, because that inch goes a lot further if you're zoomed in. So I'm trying to get better about that. We're only on day 3. This is building up a lot for me behind the scenes as far as setting a routine. I am not normally a very routine person. Alright, and now I'm going to go back over those green leaves. I'm going in with some sap green. I'm going to bend this a little bit darker. So right now I feel like it's so visually close to the blue in the middle. Pop in some leaves over there. And the sap green's a little bit more neutral. It's oh geez, I don't remember the pigments in it. I normally like to remember, but it's escaping me right now. I think it's Quin Gold and no, I'm thinking of Undersea Green. Wow. I'm sorry, I'm just rambling. Alright. So we have some cups. Going to deepen that blue a little more on these little flowers on the side. That's going to help kind of imply some shadow. Alright, and then I think we can add, I think I'm going to have the saucer on the bottom match this, so we'll add some gold there. So this is quinacridone gold. And just pop that along the edge of the saucer. I'm going to leave a touch of space since I just tapped on that little bit of color on the blue. I don't want it to run. This is kind of a bright, happy yellow. I'm going to try to go just inside of this pencil line here, because it would be lovely if I could erase that when I'm done. If you're new to watercolor, you might realize that your pencil lines don't really move once you've painted over them. I've had luck with some of it picking up in some cases, so it's always worth like trying to do that, but don't do it until you know everything is dry. Like, when in doubt, wait a day. You can also do something like using a heat gun to go ahead and lift that up. I think I'm going to just tap around the edge just a touch to go ahead and make this a little bit darker. So this is a little bit of raw sienna and a touch more orange and a touch neutralized compared to the quinacridone gold, which is why I like to keep it on hand. And that should blend in pretty nice. Alright, and my phone is telling me low battery, so I think for today we're going to end it once the battery is done. I'm going to keep going just a little longer while it holds out. And I'm going to pop in just a touch of that neutral tint down in between our cups here, between the green one and the blue one, just to add a little bit of a shadow, because that's a good color for this area. And I did not go dark enough. Alright, go a little darker. A little darker, not so wet. Way a little too much water. Still want a touch darker on this side, right down here. I know it's going to run a lot because it's still pretty wet. That's okay. Just want it a touch darker there. And I want this line to finish. I want that to be nice and smooth. Okay, I don't think that's quite dry there. I'm going to go back to our Quinburn orange. We're going to mix it up kind of thick. I love this particular color for tea. It is a really incredible orange. Let me just give that. Let's see, we have the shadow from here. I'm going to say there's a little bit of light hitting across here, so I'm actually going to go across here, just to darken that a touch. Alright, we need a little more rinsing. I still got a good bit of water in there, a little bit of orange in there. I feel like this needs a little bit of shading down here, but I also want to make sure like these flowers are completely dry. It seems dry. My camera keeps telling me low battery. Like, don't make me stress. Alright, I'm going real light with a neutral tint, just a little tap tap. Just to tone that a little bit darker. Gonna go back here on the saucer too, we're gonna go a little darker there. Just to help convey a little bit of depth. And like the edge of the saucer, like it's curled upward a little bit, so it helps cast a shadow from this light coming behind. So this spot will be really light. We're going to take out most of the color. I'm just going to go real soft next to it. And let that color come in. We could use a little bit more shadow under the cups where they join the saucer, but we're going to leave that alone. Last little thing, well, I think I'll have enough battery for today. I do have the other battery charged, but I'm thinking like, you know what, I think maybe the universe is saying it is time to be done for today. So we're just going to put in our little handle, and I went a little too light. Come get a little more pigment. We're going to leave that pretty bright because back here is where our light source is. And once that dries, I'll either tap in just a touch of the phthalo blue turquoise, or I might go in with a touch of neutral tint just for this little itty bitty section down here where the handle is curving up around and going down. So that'll help you see that this is the top of the handle, and then down here would be, I'm zoomed in a lot. Alright, it's not working so well for being so zoomed in, but because the handle comes around and down, I don't know if that makes sense. So hopefully you can see it. If not, well, you'll see it painted next time you, at some point through the Wonderland series. So I still want just a touch more shadow around these edges. I'm gonna go a little sketchy. Just lightly pulling these little edges around. And you know what? While I have that, this should be a little bit drier because I didn't go in very heavy. Maybe that'll help you see this form coming around and heading down. Alright, and you know what? That bottom edge might be good now. I went really dry with those washes, and that's what I'm trying to do on some of the smaller parts for this project, is making it so that way we have the opportunity to go back in and get it done. Otherwise, you know, a lot of these sessions are going to go on for like a lot longer than an hour, and I really don't want to go over an hour. Alright, so we have a little foot on this cup. I'm gonna leave that alone. We're not gonna put a shadow under the cups for now. I mean, I could with neutral tint, because then I don't have to decide what color I'm heading towards later, because that tends to go with a lot of, you know, whatever I wanted. But I think I want to leave that ambiguous for now. Now we can pop in the shadow here. A little bit more dimension to our stack of cups. Alright, so they're happy. I think they're good. Alright. I think that's where we're at for now. So we have, I'll go ahead and zoom out a little bit. I'll go ahead and slide around. Alright, we have our dormouse and our cups. And then the rest of Wonderland is kind of waiting to get filled in. Well, I'm a little too close to my light. Let me get the water cup out of the way. Get this back to where you can see everything. I'm having the worst time trying to center this. It's funny, for the person who has to paint like visual, like three-dimensional things, you would think that I could just blam, get this nailed and centered right under the camera. Okay, yeah, heading that way is the good part. Alright. Maybe I need to mount my camera over just a touch. Maybe that's what my problem is. I'm going to test that while I have a teeny bit of battery left. I'm going to slide this just over half an inch and see if that makes it easier for me to go ahead and center stuff. That may wind up moving. Well, actually, it absolutely will wind up moving when it comes to the Monday or Tuesday stream, just because of that new hardware. They'll have a whole new mounting system, so I'll be able to mount an external microphone, potentially. I mean, it has a mount for it, but will I use it? That is the question, because it will be a much more sensitive mic if I do break out that mic, and I don't know if that's going to be a negative feature. I don't know if that type of sensitivity is necessary, so we'll see how we go with audio quality. I am trying to incrementally improve anything I see as we go through this month to make it a better feature, a better experience for you. And you know, I'm definitely open to questions, comments, anything along those lines. So let me know, what do you think of the painting so far as stickers? And we've just lost our camera feed, so I'm going to switch us over. Alright, so let me know what you think, and I'm always glad to hear. Have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow.